I know Daniel Harris is still with us this morning on OTB AM. Daniel, like that interview that Graham is talking about on I think it was on El Chiringuito TV, this bizarre and frankly unchallenged interview that Florentino Perez made. One of the lines that came out of it was this notion that young people weren't interested in football, and that the games were too long, and we had this idea planted in our heads that football matches in the European Super League potentially, or under Perez's vision anyway, would be shorter than the average 90-minute football matches. What did you make generally of Perez's interview and some of the comments he came out with?
So that particular one, actually, I almost felt like he had the germ of a good point there. He didn't know that he had one. But I think that the thing with football matches, when I watch football matches as a supporter, when I watch football matches as a writer, one of the things that winds me up is that the way that time is kept is ridiculous. And if he was about to say, what we're going to do is we're going to have 30 minutes of ball in play time each way, I'd get behind that, where the clock is visible so everyone can see when it's stopped and how much time is getting added on at the end. That, to me, would be a good development for football. And ball in play time would mean that you never left a football match feeling that you've been cheated. I remember like the time that I always think about is, and it's personal, I'm a United supporter, so I think about United, is in 2004-05, United were in a group with Villarreal, Benfica and Lille. And they got knocked out of that group. And the reason they got knocked out of that group is because they were rubbish. So this isn't an excuse for why something that happened 16 years ago happened 16 years ago. They were rubbish. But I remember watching those games, coming away from them, going to the games, feeling like I'd not actually seen a game of football. So little ball in play time was there, and so little did the officials do anything about it. So if we were about to standardise how much ball in play time there is and actually increase the amount of football that we get to see and make it part of the game, I'll be behind that. But that's obviously not what Florentino Perez was saying. And the thing that him saying that revealed to me was that actually, if these guys are running their own league, they can change any of the laws of the game that they like, that they decide don't fit, and there is no one to safeguard that. And given that this league is basically them taking football away from people in order to make money, and given the thing that these guys do in their day jobs, like Roman Abramovich and Sheikh Mansour, given the way that they behave in their day jobs and the things that they're not ashamed of doing in their day jobs, then why would they not start messing with the rules of football, if they thought that would make them more money? And there was no one to safeguard the game. There was no one to stop them from doing that, because they would be the people who participated in the league who were running the league. And then I started thinking they're going to have a compliance unit. What happens if it suits Florentino Perez and Joel Glazer for the result of a match to be in a particular way? And this is why you need people overseeing what happens. This is why the clubs can't run their own leagues, because it's a conflict of interest. And much as UEFA are rubbish and FIFA are rubbish and corrupt, and they've been riddled with corruption and riddled with bad decision-making and riddled with poor leadership, you need people to safeguard the game, and you need people to safeguard the game on a governmental level so that we don't have these people owning our football clubs. But you also need people to safeguard the game on a purely operational level so that the laws are the laws and so that it's fair and everyone is playing fairly.
Lads, let me in, Daniel. I hope you were speaking in inverted commas there, because you can pick off items where you say FIFA and UEFA are rubbish. But unless you've got a completely different point of view than me, and I'm speaking partially as somebody who loves football, and partially as somebody who works as a reporter of football, the Champions League is a glorious beast. It's utterly stupendous.
But that's because football is stupendous.
It's better than, no, the structure of the competition is fantastic. It's better than the European Cup. The European Cup is glorified, but the format was stale. It led to football that was unattractive. The Champions League has utterly changed. Not mind revenue and marketing. It's given us football that we'd never seen before.
I wouldn't dispute that. Although what I would say is that I think we definitely, there are some moral issues with the Champions League. Even when they started letting in clubs that weren't champions, that elevated the standard. But I'm not stupid enough to just say, well, that was a bad thing because it's the champions, they're not champions. Because when you have the European Cup, all you know that you've got the best side in all the countries from the previous season. What you don't necessarily have is the best sides at that time, because those things change. Once you start letting in 3 and 4 teams from countries, you're going to have all the best teams, because it's very rare that a team comes from 6th in the Premier League to be the best team in Europe the next season. So the standard definitely elevated. What I thought the best format of the Champions League, because they played around with it quite a bit, Like, there was time where it was just a group stage when Rangers almost got to the final when they got pipped by Marseille.
That was year one. That was year one.
So that was the kind of the first format. So I felt like the best format, and this is going to sound like a ridiculous bias, was 98-99, where United played 17 games to win the Champions League, which is a lot. Maybe it was 17 games when it became 2 groups the next season, but there was serious jeopardy in the group stages at that point. Then they did it with 2 group stages, then they went to 2 group stages in 2000, and that was way too much. Now, where it is at the moment is there's probably, I don't think, enough jeopardy in the group stages still. I think they do need to do something to refresh that part of the Champions League before Christmas. The bit after Christmas is obviously, as you say, stupendous, because you've got unbelievable football teams who are unbelievably well-funded by this cartel that they've created as a consequence of opening the Champions League up to all these clubs.
No, stop. This is my point. Initially, you said UEFA are rubbish. Now we're talking about tinkering on a product that's very good. And when people talk about not enough jeopardy, the team that won 3 times in a row recently and is in the semi-finals now was clinging on by their fingernails in the group stage this year, Real Madrid. Everybody talks about mega clubs, but Ajax got to the semi-final and should have gone through to the final the other year, having not been in one since '96. Roma got to the semi-final against Liverpool, and Liverpool by the end were knackered and clinging onto their fingertips, and Roma hadn't been to a final since '84. Last season was an odd season, and I'm not defending UEFA, I'm defending my love of the tournament and the way people, the accuracy of the vocabulary people use about it. Leipzig and Lyon, in an odd season, in an odd format, got to the semi-finals last season.
Yeah, it's a cup competition.
It might be imperfect, but I think those of us who were horrified by what we've just seen from the ESL need to choose our language really much more carefully. I don't just mean you, I mean in general. I hear some horse being talked about the Champions League because people would like to modify it, calibrate it, but use sweeping statements about it being rubbish or UEFA being idiots or that's not true.
I didn't say that, but
I said people. And you said UEFA and FIFA may be idiots and rubbish at the beginning of your diatribe. All I'd say is I knew that what you wanted was more about calibration rather than sweeping the whole thing out of the window. But all of us who broadcast, we need to be more careful because we fuel the idiots. You've seen it in Trumpism. You've seen it with Boris Johnson. We need to be much more accurate and cautious and careful about the words, the phrases that we use, because these people who have just tried to ruin football take them and reuse them. And my only point is the Champions League may need recalibration, but it is a thing of utter shimmering beauty, and it's given people like you and me and the lads on the station the best work of our lives.
But that's because football is a thing of shimmering beauty. It doesn't.
No, that's not enough. Football was involved in the ESL. There was no shimmering beauty there.
No, because that was pushing aside the football in order to pursue the money. And I think when we're talking about the Champions League, we need to be honest and realistic about the way that the Champions League money distorts competition in local leagues. So for example, you have repeat winners of the English League, the Premier League, is the only league really that still generally retains a great deal of unpredictability of who's going to win it. Because what happens is you have the clubs that repeat qualify for the Champions League are then able to take their wealth into their domestic league, and it is distorting. There's not enough redistribution of Champions League money. It is distorting. And of course, when you get Bayern Munich against Paris Saint-Germain, where you have Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain who constantly win their domestic league and have much more money than everybody else, you're going to have a phenomenally high level of football because they can spend obscene amounts of money on players.
Recalibrate your language. Look at Lille Paris Saint-Germain today. Look at Lille Paris Saint-Germain at the top of their league. In Spain, recently, the teams that win the league, you point to me. In Spain right now, there's a 6-point spread between fourth and first. And Sevilla are genuine candidates to win the title. Atleti are leading the title. They haven't won it since 2014. It still happens. So again, all I'm asking you is not to say the Premier League is the only one where there's a title race.
I didn't say that. It's the only one where there's a title race. I'd say it's the least predictable of the major.
It's not what you said. It's not what you said, and that's what I'm asking.
What did I say?
You said that the Premier League is the only one with a competitive title race. That's what you said.
I didn't. Those weren't the words I used. There is a title race. There is a title race in Spain this season, but in general, the league is won by Atletico won one league in the last 10 years. How many leagues have not been won by Madrid or Barcelona?
Is there or isn't there also a title race in France?
This season,
the point gap between Lille and Paris Saint-Germain. Then be more careful with your language.
But I didn't say that there was no title race. You're hearing my words as what you would like them to have been, rather than what they were. In general, League One is not a competitive league because Paris Saint-Germain pissed the league almost every season. The one season that didn't happen, Unai Emery got fired, and the year that Monaco won the league. But of the last 10, how many haven't been won since Qatar's money came to Paris? How many leagues haven't they won? One.
Monaco in 17.
Yeah, the one that Monaco won. One.
And maybe this one.
And maybe this one, which they may still win themselves anyway.
Be more judicious in your language then.
Why? It's not generally a competitive
because there's a title race in Italy.
I didn't say there wasn't
and
one.
Spain right now. You said England was the only competitive title race.
How many in a row? Is it 7 or 8?
Daniel,
you said that only England had a competitive title race.
No, I didn't.
You need to be more judicious with your language.
We may not get wound up in language here because we're going to end up going around in circles. One person is convinced somebody said something the other person didn't. You'll be able to go back and watch it back as well. The fact of the matter here is that there is going to be a lot of these conversations that happen over the next little while, like whether or not the Champions League is the perfect format and whether or not that change will happen over the next couple of years. To inflate the entire thing is something that's going to be of, as you can hear, of huge contention over the next little while. I know it's been a lot of your time this morning and I really appreciate it, Graham and Daniel. And I know you both want the same thing for football at the very end of the day. Daniel Harris, Graham Hunter, thanks for
you guys.
That's a virtual hug.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, thanks very much to the lads. It is 8:40 AM on this Wednesday morning.